It's just gone 6:30 and you're watching East Midlands Today. Tonight, the impact of COVID on carers and their loved ones. The pandemic has meant many carers have lost vital support, even leading to some, like Dad Chris, having to give up work to care for his son.
It just shows how life can throw you a curved ball. You know, the pandemic came out of nowhere. I never had any intention of finishing work early, and yet ultimately I didn't have any choice.
Plus, the beef about carbon and cattle. Can changing the way they graze actually suck carbon into the soil?
And we celebrate the secret knitter, whose creations are becoming a worldwide phenomenon.
Every time one goes up, everybody says it's put a smile on their face. And I think during the last year, with the pandemic, it has really lifted people's spirits.
Hello, welcome to Wednesday's East Midlands Today with me, Sarah Teal. Tonight, the impact of coronavirus on carers and the loved ones they look after. During the past 18 months, lockdowns and other restrictions have hit them particularly hard. Support services have been unable to help. Day centres have closed. Respite care has been hit too. The government says it has supported unpaid carers with billions of pounds in funding and clear COVID guidance. But has that been enough? This report from Derbyshire by Nicola Gilroy.
Getting ready to tackle the High Peak Trail, a lifeline for carer and dad Chris when support services stopped.
The experience is that you feel that you're constantly on the job, and lockdown just made you feel banged up, quite frankly. And I know a lot of carers will recognise, that sensation. Hard work, it is relentless.
His son has Down syndrome and autism and needs around-the-clock care. Without help, he's had to quit his job.
It just shows how life can throw you a curved ball. The pandemic came out of nowhere. I never had any intention of finishing work early, but it's enormously difficult when you've got that level of responsibility to keep all the balls in the air at the same time.
Charity Carers UK say around 6,000 people like Chris have had to make the difficult decision of giving up their job to look after someone during the pandemic. And that's because COVID-19 has forced the closure of daycare centres and respite services that offer them vital support.
It's been a strange time, the last year and a half, because things have been so different. Graham found the mask business not ideal, and you miss so many people. And we couldn't go out to meet people and that sort of thing. But we got by, didn't we?
Things are improving. This is the first face-to-face meeting in 14 months for Joy, who cares for her husband Graham with Alzheimer's.
During the pandemic, we've had an awful lot more calls from carers who are in crisis. They've struggled without their usual respite. They've struggled to maintain the sort of quality of their lives. Usually you know that you've got a break or family support or council support with support groups or day centres, and people have managed without that during this time, and it's been a long time for them.
Some of the services Chris and his son rely on have reopened, but until all do, he says it'll be a long road to normal.
It will take a good while for the whole pressure cooker effect of lockdown to dissipate. And I think there are a lot of carers who are going to be licking their wounds, really.
Well, the Department for Health and Social Care said unpaid carers have played a vital role throughout the pandemic, and we've supported them at every turn with clear guidance, prioritised vaccinations and funding for a number of charities to support carers. We've provided billions of pounds in funding to support the adult care sector throughout COVID-19 and beyond, including over £1 billion through the Infection Control Fund, which can be used to help day centres reopen safely and in a COVID-secure way. The Carers Trust charity supports people providing unpaid care to family and friends, and we can speak to the Chief Executive Officer, Gareth Howes. Thanks very much for joining us. You heard there me saying what the government response was. Is that enough?
I think it's important to recognise, first and foremost, that unpaid carers were caring well before the start of the pandemic and will continue to care after the pandemic. It's important that whilst there has been support more broadly for adult social care, unpaid carers need to be recognised in their own right and need their own support.
And we've been talking a lot and hearing about the impact that COVID has had on carers. Just how much has the pandemic increased that workload and the pressure?
Our survey last year in the autumn showed that 1 in 6 unpaid carers were taking on at least another 40 hours of unpaid care during that time. And 72% of unpaid carers in our recent research with Carers UK and other partners showed that 72% of carers haven't even had a break.
And Gareth, you were a young carer for your mum. Just how emotionally draining, how physically draining, how difficult a job is it?
It's one of those jobs that you don't apply for, one of those jobs that you don't anticipate coming around the corner. It's one of those things you do willingly. It can be very challenging emotionally, very physically draining, trying to do that alongside work or school, depending on your circumstances. Very rewarding at the same time, but also very isolating and lonely. It's really important that unpaid carers are recognised for the role that they play.
And you talked about the survey that your charity conducted, saying 12% of carers say they don't get enough support. So what can be done to actually help?
First and foremost, the big thing that unpaid carers are asking for right now is a break. They simply need some respite to have some time to themselves. That has been taken away because of the pandemic. Really need an hour here or there or a little bit longer to be themselves. And secondly, what unpaid carers are asking for is the plans for social care reform to really be brought forward as soon as possible. It's important that the social care system that is there to support the people they care for and them as unpaid carers is reformed to give them a life alongside their caring role.
OK, Gareth Howes, it was great to speak to you. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.